We will be starting in just a moment.
Your TV room has just been taken over by your son's startup because you have the fastest connection of
We are live right after the Alexander City Council Forum. It was different.
It wasn't as maybe lively or as, I guess, maybe informative as I would have liked it to have been.
The intensity, I think, was
maybe that's the word.
Um,
And maybe it could be because, let's get the elephant out of the room. There's a little controversy in Alexander City right now surrounding
the mayor.
The mayor and the council's relationship with him and how that's affected some things in City Hall and the community at large. And I think that issue seems to be, that cloud, I guess, seems to be obscuring, in my opinion, some of the bigger issues that we have.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, let me do a little housekeeping because that's always important. I want to first of all thank Wise Point for letting us hang out. We've got a makeshift studio. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Kirk and his partner John McCullough have a great office. It used to be my old office, and they are doing an awesome job. Come on down, get with Jeff if you need some business services dealing with internet and programming. Great opportunity to get something done in the city. They always are looking for business, and I don't think there's much that they can't do. I'm convinced of that. But also Human Business Solutions. We do HR consulting and also business consulting. And then, of course, Alexander City Chiropractic.
That'd be me.
And if you need your bones broke, if you need
need some good chiropractic call over here in Alexander City.
So, but let's talk a little bit about going into this particular situation. I had put out a poll for
the famous Sean Lamb poll.
But what it is I had said, okay, mayoral forum was over. Rank the top four. Rank them in order.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 63 people that put something out there.
Okay. So this is since the other night.
This is since the other night. Post forum. Yes, this is. This would be like after the convention for Trump and the convention for Hillary. This is how they've done at this point in time. It looks like Mark Fuller came out ranked number 1. Looks like Mark Lamborn came ranked out number 2. Looks like Jim Neighbors has slipped and Charles Shaw was fourth. And we kind of talked about that a little bit as far as our regular analysis, as far as who we thought did well. And this is performance-wise now. This isn't who you're necessarily going to vote for. This is how they did at the forum.
This isn't their platform necessarily.
Correct.
This isn't what they stand for, who they are. This
just
is
an overall assessment of how they did.
Right.
And that's how the question was laid out.
That's right.
Okay? And in fact, it said not who you would vote for, but just how individuals did. You and I both had Mark Lamborn and Mark Fuller kind of close, and even in the numbers that they had,
looking at the numbers you've got,
it was close.
It's
so
darn close.
Whatever they did, they had a good performance that may help them to overcome whatever people may have wondered about or thought about going into the election.
I think they communicated well.
They did. They had a little. I think we talked about both of them seemed to know what they were talking about and had a vision.
They seemed to primarily stick with the issues.
Yes.
They didn't vary or stray very much.
Right.
So,
and we're not saying that the others didn't.
No,
it's just that when it came to presentation.
In that forum.
Correct.
That doesn't mean if you sat down and had dinner with them, or if you met them on the front porch of your house, if they came by, if you walked up to their respective offices where they work now, met them on the sidewalk. That doesn't mean they would come across better or worse. It's just that particular venue, that forum.
The way it went out.
The way it came across, our opinion, strictly our opinion, and
apparently it did.
In the 63 people that answered and I actually did not take that poll, so I'm not included in that group.
And I'm not either. I don't like doing my own polls.
No, I didn't weight it, so that's outside of you and I.
The other thing that there was, the second question kind of shocked me. The second question was, did your vote for mayor change any because of the forum?
I would like to know what you came up with on that one, because that's very interesting to me.
Out of 63 people, 44 people said no, which not surprising, which is 70%.
And now let's jump back to something we talked about last week. The majority of people in all of your polls, when you've asked the question, what do you base your vote or your opinion, or what's the primary thing it's based on, it came back each time the same as the number one thing people based their vote on was the
people. I mean, your friends, family.
Yeah.
Second was social media, whatever.
First was personal relationship.
There you go, personal relationship. Whether that be with the candidate or however.
Maybe you have
personal relationship,
business or whatever.
But this says that there's 30% of the people
that are up in the air.
Well, not just up in the air, but it changed.
That's right.
From what they originally thought that they were going to do.
Saying. They juggled between a week ago and they changed their mind.
And, I think that's huge because that's kind of like your independence potential.
Well, and let me tell you this. Think about the way that for those of you that don't know, and you should by now if you're a voting citizen, and I hope you are, it's our number one push for everybody is what?
Education and go out and vote.
Yeah, educate yourself and please go out and vote, is the fact that the way Alex City, the way this election works, unless you win 50% of the vote plus one vote, you have a runoff.
Right.
So, what you're telling me right there, if 1/3 of the people change their mind, a lot can happen in the next week.
Correct.
They can change their mind again. Correct. Maybe they haven't made up.
That door knocking might make a difference.
That's exactly
going into that last
third could be the runoff versus no runoff, or who gets in the runoff.
Correct. Now, before we go into how we think each district did and who may have been the winners, hate to say losers, but just didn't perform as well tonight. Let's start off with question number 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is how did people rank individuals in these districts before the actual forum itself?
So this is the poll that you took prior to tonight.
Yes.
This is what the people have answered, and again, how many people for this?
63.
63. Are we going to assume it's the same 63 that did this poll?
No. The 63.
Right.
These are same.
Whoever answered these questions answered them all.
Correct.
So this particular question then was, how are they ranked in each district by district prior to tonight's forum?
In fact, the specific question is, who do you think will perform the best in District 1 Council forum? Steve Crow came in first, significantly over Bobby Tapley and Beverly White.
Okay.
In District 2, dead heat almost between Audrey Buffy Colvin, Jacob Meacham, and then a little bit further away, about a point away, was Sherry Ellison Simpson.
Okay.
District 4, Eric Brown clearly was in first place. Second place was Tapley. Third place was Billy Ray Wall. Question 6 was District 6, ironically enough. Cromer was first, Funderburk, and then Harris.
Okay.
Now, what's strange is it pretty much worked out that way from what I observed tonight.
Okay. Based on just
the only one that would probably be somewhat of a toss-up was the performance in District 6 between Cromer and Funderburk. I would say that would probably be a little closer, and my assessment is that Funderburk probably had just a little bit of a professional edge over Cromer.
And that could just be age.
Just presentation.
Been around longer.
That kind of deal. Not necessarily that Cromer didn't have the information and everything else. It's just that I think from just, if you were scoring it,
right?
This was a game. I think that Funderburk probably would have had just a little bit more of an edge than Cromer in that particular situation. But overall, it pretty much maps out exactly like the people themselves put it prior to even having this particular form.
And of course, that's your opinion.
It's all, look, every last bit of this is subjective.
Totally.
Until
that's right.
The day of August 23rd.
Now, we need to make an announcement about August the 23rd.
Okay.
Obviously, that's the day that the election takes place here, but also we're going to have election coverage.
You jumped on me. Yes, we will actually.
We mentioned that several times.
We're looking at having, starting around 7 o'clock, which is when the polls close, maybe around 7:15-ish is what we're looking at. We're looking at doing a live feed from City Hall.
Yeah.
Now, that's what we're looking at. I think we got all the information and the situations that we need in order to get it taken care of. But we'll have all the candidates around. We'll have the newspaper, the media, and everyone else. And our goal is to actually try and get some people to come on camera and talk to us a little bit about what they think of the election, how they see it coming out. As results come in, we'll try and update you on what's going on.
I think that's going to be a good night.
Well, this is a defining election, as one of our mayoral candidates said, and why not be there and let people experience what it's like for the candidates to first hear.
Now, let me point something out that we brought out this specifically about the mayoral issue, and it's back to what I started to talk about. Right now, there's a financial concern. There's a cloud of financial questioning here in Alexander City, and we feel like that did affect and will affect the mayoral forum and the election, the outcome of the election.
It's going to be a huge piece.
It is huge. Now, how do you feel like having seen the candidate, the council candidate forum? How do you feel like that played into the forum tonight?
Well, first of all, to kind of clear that up, the questions that they asked 3 questions. 2 of them were for every person that's running, basically. And that first question was, what is the top issue facing the city?
Right.
Now,
that's each one that question.
Everyone got that question, and to me, the way that it was presented kind of made it into somewhat of a softball question.
Yeah.
Because unless you've been up under a rock,
right,
and
you don't have to live here.
If you say anything other than financial, then it was. And the thing that kind of disappointed me a little bit about the way that they answered that question is that it would be, of course, the finances, of course, the audit, but we didn't get that secondary piece of what, how does that look? What would you do, or something of that nature?
And I think, and this is my concern for this, and I think I voiced this at our last show last week. My concern is, and I'm just speaking from, this is my opinion, nobody else's. I'm not being paid.
You're allowed to do that on this show.
And I'm not. No one's twisting my arm. I think the financial issue is a big deal, but I don't think it's the biggest deal.
Right.
And had I been in the hot seat tonight and someone asked me that question, I would have I think that's what candidates think people want to hear right now.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I totally think that's where people have latched on.
Right. And the problem with that, this is my concern with that, is, okay, so there's a financial issue. The financial issue can be handled. What happens after that? And that's, for me, and that's, again, back to the mayor forum, and now for this council forum right here. It's good that you're concerned about the finances. We all should be concerned about the finances. Honestly, we should all be concerned as much before as we are now, and we probably wouldn't have the issues we have now. Right. But that being said, back to the main point. I think that people are running on low beam headlights on this election. That's why I really was hoping to see tonight from the candidates. I wanted to see the high beam answers,
right,
the long-term answers.
Right.
Here's how we're going to handle things. And we saw some of that in the mayor forum. Tonight, I didn't feel like we saw as much as that.
Yeah.
Of the long term, here's how we're going to solve other problems we have. Here's how we're going to, everyone says, well, we're going to make jobs and lower taxes and feed the hungry, and it's the Miss America answers to things. Okay, I want to hear how we're going to solve other problems down the road,
or how it relates to solving the other problem.
Correct.
And you have two issues when you go just with finances at this point in time. It's either going to be a short-term problem and you don't have a plan next,
right?
Or it's going to be a long-term problem
and you're out of your league.
It's such a mess that you can't do anything anyway.
This is my opinion.
You do not want to be Fairfield right now.
No. If this financial thing is a long-term problem, after we have a changeover in the next election, whatever that change, whether there's incumbents that remain, right, or there's change, if this is a long-term problem, we got the wrong council,
right,
the wrong mayor,
right, because that will be the central focus.
It darn
for 4
sure
years,
will be.
Period.
If it's not handled quickly,
correctly,
if it's not resolved to a good
and I think we referred to that. When it comes to our mayors, we have a financial person.
That's right.
We have a business professional.
That's right.
We have a very well-organized individual that has a vision and a plan.
Understand, yep.
And we have the current incumbent who is doing his thing and is already implementing a lot of things.
Right.
Whatever you feel about where we are right now, that's what that is. Right. And we would just be continuing whatever that situation is. So that's your 4 options going into that situation.
Exactly. And one of the things I find, this to me, this is the curveball. All right, with this council that we just watched. Mm-hmm. The curveball is this. And if and we both talked about the fact that Mayor Shaw could win this election and get back in. He's got a following out there. Now, according to the poll that you've taken, we don't see that.
But I also have to say, a lot of the this is a Facebook-oriented, online, internet poll.
And no demographically.
And demographically, a lot of individuals who may end up being strong supporters of Shaw may not even see this poll. They will never see this poll. They're not interested in it. It's not something. No. They're not engaged in that type of activity.
This is where this is where one of these multiple polls would become very valuable.
Correct.
So that being said, here's the curveball. Shaw gets back in. He has a new council. That's what we don't know. That's the unknown.
Correct.
That's the huge variable with this group right here that they have to look at.
Correct.
Regardless, from a council standpoint, they have to look at themselves as a council working with whoever the mayor is, whether that's the incumbent, Mr. Shaw, or it's one of the 3 candidates that are running against him. And I think that is a big deal. That's a big deal. And it speaks to the question we had beyond the current financial issues. How is that going to be affected long term?
But you know what's missing to me? And I've not heard it in the mayoral forum, and I didn't hear it in the council forum. And that's what I thought that I would hear a little bit more of.
I got an idea what you're going to say. Let me see if I'm right.
a lot of this dealt with communication.
Thank you. You got
a lot of this dealt with, what was your plan?
Projecting an image.
Correct. How were you going to communicate to me? The movie where the guy said, "Show me the money." It's huge at this point in time, and I need you to talk to me about where my money is and where is it going.
And in this case, we're not just talking about the financial issue. We're talking about long term.
Correct.
Show me where
are we going? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Exactly, and that's where I'm afraid again, and I voiced this.
Why don't we have town halls? Why don't we have financial reports? Why don't we have it where people can see what's happening in our city government right now? Those are the questions that no one addressed.
Several of our candidates, mayoral candidates,
right?
And again, I didn't hear as much as this from the city council candidates. Was transparency. That was a huge, pounding drum for several of the mayor candidates. Heard it from a couple of the city council candidates, but not as much. But again, I think there's a lot of focus on the finances right now.
But that's a cop-out, I think. We know that if we get good accounting done, then
it's a given.
Then where's that vision going?
Which takes me back.
And the problem that you also you didn't get to see the second question, but the second question, like I said, was almost a gimme also. The gimme was, what is the role of a city council member, and kind of why are you the best candidate for it?
And it's let me guess, it's to work with the mayor and the rest of the city council to resolve the current.
It's a legislative body. Right. I mean, and again,
right.
You just don't really get to.
I want to get hit hard with answers. I want to get hit hard.
And with that starting, with those two questions starting at one end and going straight to the other, if you're in District 6 and you started in District 1, you better have one heck of an answer by the time we get down
right.
I can't understand why you're not stronger with your answers by the time we get into Districts 4 and 6.
Right.
Because District 1 and 2 has suffered through having to come up with a good answer in that situation. So that kind of disappointed me, because I would have figured that by the time we got into 4 and 6, we would have had some strong answers.
Well, you would have had a little longer chance to formulate how you want to say it.
Now, the only question that could throw you for a loop was the individual. Well, it was the individual question in your district.
Correct.
In District 1, it was pretty much, what are the needs in your district?
And that happens to be my district. Who my current councilman is Bobby Tapley, and then I believe Miss Buffy and Mr. Steve Crow are running.
Nope. Beverly White.
Sorry, Beverly. Miss Beverly White is running against Mr. Steve Crow
and Bobby
Tapley, who's the incumbent. And I think, what did they say?
Well,
what did they say?
Crow brought up the fact that Cooper Rec did not have a pool this year, and he felt as if there should have been an investment in all of the citizens in the district. And I was fairly impressed with that answer.
Yeah.
Bobby Tapley did come back and explain. He spent more time explaining what the other two brought up as issues, instead of maybe taking a second to just kind of say what he thought the issue. Yeah,
let's back up for just a second. And
he was at a disadvantage by being the incumbent.
Correct. And there's a little bit of a defensive posture there. Yep. And we saw this with Mayor Shaw last week. And I believe in what we have three, we have Mr. Billy Ray Walls is running as an incumbent, Ms. Sherry, Dr. Sherry Ellison is running as incumbent, and Mr. Bobby Tapley running as incumbents.
Right.
And there is probably a little bit of a defensive posture there, because if someone tries to point out something, it's easy to take that as a criticism.
Correct.
The past council or the past government.
And Beverly basically said that a lot of the Lake Martin activities needed to be moved to her side of the town, on the north side.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Bobby Tapley explained a little bit about that situation, but I don't know. I didn't.
Well, and you do run into this, and we'll grant this little thing. There are districts of there are districts that encompass downtown, or what we call the downtown area, as opposed to those that are more outlying. For example,
the downtown and the lake.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the lake's a long ways away from downtown.
Correct.
So most of these things that take place, the majority of things tend to center toward the city center, or the primary attraction of Alex City and Lake Martin for a specific group of people of Alex City and Tallapoosa County, rather, is Lake Martin.
Right.
It's a huge draw. So
overall, I would probably have to go with the poll that I think that Steve Crow probably commanded the situation a little bit better. Bobby Tapley was strong, but it was more a little bit in the defensive.
Right, and we'll give him a little credit for that, or excuse that a little bit because of just what's going on. They've all been hit hard in the newspaper, on social media, shows like this. We pick at them, take a little swipe at them for things like this. So they are a little bit on the defense.
I wasn't quite as clear as where Miss White stood, and I'm still kind of walking away from it at this point, not quite as understanding as to what exactly she stands on, except for
what her primary platform planks in her platform are. That might be something we want to clarify with her. Maybe we can get with her and do a little interview.
District 2.
But real quick, back to Steve Crow. I think probably you said he did a really good job. Steve's he's been around a long time. He's been a professional. He's been he's handled money on vast amounts, obviously, with being in banking industry for many years. So that's probably where you see that confidence come from, especially in light of the financial situation that seems to be a big deal right now. So,
now
that was probably an easier question for him in that sense. So.
Well, and I guess that does make a little bit more sense.
I think so.
District 2 was a firestorm. And I say it that way because I see Audrey Buffy Colvin and Jacob Meacham. Audrey was very dynamic as far as speaking.
She's a good speaker. I watched your interviews with her. She's one of the ones I did watch nearly completely. Went back and watched it, and she is she's good at presenting her thoughts.
Sherry came out, gave her facts, gave information as to what all has been done. Again, the incumbents seem to be kind of focused more on where they are right now and what they've done. Not as dynamic, but I didn't see where there were any flaws in how she presented the information.
Sure. It was just the facts.
It was the facts. She's a very straightforward person anyway.
She's an educator.
There you go.
Has been for many years. So for her, that's just how it works, and it's good. It's a good way to do it.
The feeling that you got when you listened to Jacob Meacham was visionary for some reason. You kind of got that feeling that
the youthful visionary.
This is where I'm going. This is what I like to do. I'm going to strike out the world, and this is where we're going to go. Those are pretty much what you're going to have to decide on. Is what each one of them brings to the table. Is that what we're looking for in District 2? I can't really speak for District 2 in that situation.
I can't either because it's outside of my territory.
And I will say this. I don't think you would go wrong with any of the three in District 2. I think that at this point in time, all of them are knowledgeable about what needs to happen. All of them have a vision. All of them have an ability to be involved. And I tell you, I don't see that either one of them is not going to be involved in the district.
And now here's a question I have, and again, this is going to be a little bit of an edgy question.
Okay.
But I want to say it, and I want your opinion on it. I've polled a lot of people. This is a big discussion in my household. It's been I'm a doctor. I'm in an office. I have a flow of citizens through my office. Some are outspoken and vocal about politics. Others couldn't care less. All different ages and all different ethnicities. I have all different demographics and financial profiles going. It's just if you throw a dart, that person's been in my office.
Gotcha.
Over the years. So since this whole election campaign has taken place, one of the resounding comments I've heard, all right, tell me if you've heard it. There's a large group of people, and I don't, not a small group, a large group, enough that it's made a dent in my little poll here, have simply said, we just need everybody new. Everybody that's there needs to go. We need to start over. We need a clean sweep. We need etc. And they're saying that for mayor and all city council. In other words, they're against, in their opinion, even if it's not their district, any of the incumbents coming back because they're dissatisfied with what the council has done as a whole, and they feel like that has besmirched or clouded the reputation of those that are there. I've heard that a lot. That people have said everybody needs to go. We need to start over. Or we need a clean sweep. We need a new council and mayor. We need, change. We need change.
And I hear that. I mean, hey, if you watch TV, you know of Trump, you know of Hillary, you know of that whole debacle and how that's going. Trump, if it wasn't for change, it was funny to me, and I tell people all the time, he sounds like Obama. That's he sounds as if change is coming. We're going to do it.
And here's people's problem. When you shout for change, we want change. Got to define change.
Well, and that's where it gets a little scary.
If you're driving down the road.
And the thing that bothers me a little bit about throwing everybody out is who's going to know what needs to be done in that situation.
And I'll argue that a little bit because anybody that gets voted in.
And are we saying that everybody that was in there was bad?
Well, I don't know. And see, there's where you need to sort of build a little fence. Bad, wrong, no. That's not the point. I feel like there's just a cloud. This is me talking to people, not my opinion. This is what people are telling me. A number of people.
Kick the camera.
I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Let me push it back where it was. There we go.
I
was getting animated.
Oh, man. Do I need to go get my pistol? Yeah. I just been Doug Roberts.
Oh, no.
Second time. Anyway, go ahead. No, I was just talking about the Second Amendment people. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Anyway, go ahead.
But there's, I believe, a rather large number of people.
Right.
I'm not saying a majority,
right,
but a voluminous number, and they are vocal, voluminous and vocal, let's say that, who believe that we need a fresh, clean slate completely.
And I would
have you heard people say that?
I've heard people say that, but then I also have heard them get behind individuals who, in some cases, are there already. Mm-hmm. If Jim Spann were still running, they'd still be behind Jim Spann.
Right,
so I don't really understand that if you're for getting rid of everybody, you have your personal preferences.
So really, what they're saying,
they're taking sides, basically.
Right. Which an election,
and that's fine.
An election is taking.
That's all it is.
Hey, it's all it is.
So when it comes to that, you got to be careful, in my opinion, about what people are actually saying. What they're saying is they want things to be smoother.
Right.
And they want whatever that agenda is for either the mayor or the entire council, they want that followed.
Right.
And almost without question.
Sure.
Which scares me a little bit on that side because then you have groupthink. And I'm not sure that our city is ready for groupthink.
At some level, you kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Now, and that's why I go back to what I said, and that's why I would have been curious to see, again, here's the curveball. In the event that the incumbent mayor, Mr. Shaw, is reelected, will this council be able to function? How do they function?
I still think we'll get gridlock.
So that's the question.
If Shaw is elected, I believe we'll still end up with some form of gridlock.
Okay.
I don't think that some of the vision will change. Mm-hmm. And depending on who your counselors are, I think that there will still be some form of gridlock, probably in the same district split.
Possibly. It'd be interesting to see.
That's
why I say.
And here's the cool thing about this: we don't know.
That's why I've said this before. It would be interesting to have known what would have taken place with a council working with the mayor, not split.
Correct.
So much for so long.
let me finish.
And I'm not taking sides for either side of city council, this side, that. I'm just saying it would be interesting to see
if they weren't split. How would things
right?
go?
If there was always a majority for things, and it wasn't, if we had let's say if we had 7 council people instead of 6.
Oh, it changed the game.
And maybe that's the way to ask the question.
Well, then now I will say this. I was sitting here and Jeff was babysitting me.
Yeah.
And we both really did enjoy Audrey's closing statement.
And I will confess, I missed that when I was trying to watch some of this on my telephone. I was at a birthday party and a bingo night that we sponsored.
He was out partying.
Well, I wish I was. It's been a long time.
That's what he said.
I didn't win any money at the bingo thing. That's the thing. But so I caught on and off. I caught parcels and portions.
Right.
But I wasn't able to get a coherent overall. So hopefully, I'd like to go back and watch it. Hopefully it's archived on YouTube.
It is.
So I can go back and see it.
Now, I will say Scott Hardy's presentation on his opening and his closing, it's what I expected. I talked to one of the people that were actually there, and I watched it, and they watched the opening. He presented himself as a very intelligent individual.
And he is.
And professional. Yep. I wouldn't have expected anything less from him.
I wouldn't even have known Scott for a while. He's sharp. He's smart. Yep. He works hard here. He works up with United Way here in Alexander City, so he understands vision and direction. And he's running unopposed, which
he's actually in there.
Well, right. He doesn't have to run.
But basically, they gave him an opportunity to kind of, I guess you'd say, introduce himself.
Well, it's good for other districts to find out who their candidate will be working with. So, and that being said, I noticed, and I'm just going to throw this out there.
Doing a lot of throwing.
I do like to throw curveballs.
I see.
So, but I've noticed, I do know that Scott Hardy has kind of formed an alliance with Jacob.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Well, they're having a barbecue this Saturday.
Saturday. I think he's kind of sort of picked sides on that situation.
So that being said, though, and now here's the other thing: they're friends. They've worked together. They've been friends. They're part of the Young Professionals. There's a lot of relationship there way before the city council thing ever came around. So that being said, I think it's a good alliance. I mean, it's good to partner up with people and work if you have common goals and philosophies and political stances and objectives. And it also lets people that know Scott, who maybe don't know Jacob, or vice versa, they can say, well, look, if he likes him and he agrees with him, I can agree with him. So alliances can
Is there a potential for the package deal being a problem?
Only if you have a problem with Jacob, I guess. So
you mean Scott or Jacob?
Well, Scott's
he's in.
Yeah, you don't have.
But I guess by aligning themselves together, does that
I don't think so, because here's the thing: if Jacob loses, all right, you've got 2 other candidates in there, and I know Scott well. He's a good guy. I think Scott could work very well
with anyone. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, before we go to District 4, if you have a question or a comment or whatever, and you want to hit us live right now, go to, if you're watching on YouTube, go to the chat section and put in your chat question, and we'll try and answer it live for you, okay? District 4. Eric Brown was one of the first to go. He talked about finances, obviously. I didn't get to hear his second answer for the role in council. The question there was about the road program. Are you for it or against it when it picks how roads are paved in your area?
I don't even know what that what is it? Is it like
it's an engineering program?
Is it like dice or short straw?
I mean, that's basically
because throw darts at a map.
Yeah,
I don't even know what the program is.
Cast lots, basically, in that situation. But
biblical perspective.
Yes, we're gonna do this amount over here.
Not that bad that we have to call on the Bible to.
But the thing is, he actually answered that pretty good when he said it's a mixed program of need. He says that I'm sure that the program goes into what's needed, what's not needed, or whatever. But there needs to be some way of kind of getting an idea when you look at a road and you see it. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing how I got from, you ought to be able to look at a road and say,
that sucker needs
this thing is bad. To run down the street.
When you're jogging and your wife disappears.
That's bad.
You have to pull her out with a rope or your belt or something.
Frank Tapley basically said that it was.
Now, let's talk about Mr. Frank for a minute while we're in this district.
I don't know where this is going.
No, this is. Okay. I'm gonna reflect on Mr. Frank's resume.
Okay.
Mr. Frank has been a county commissioner before in Tallapoosa County.
Correct.
So he has a certain amount of experience or knowledge, having been in a position of government like that on a county level, which is bigger than a city. In fact, Alex City is included in Tallapoosa County, and your county commissioner oversees your city district if it's in there.
Correct.
So you actually still have a county commissioner when you live in the city limits. You just tend to run to your councilman when you got a pothole,
right,
instead of calling your councilman your commissioner, county commissioner.
Correct.
So who then hopefully will communicate with the commissioner. But how did you feel like? I mean, I've known Eric Brown for many years. He's a friend. His family's been friends for a long time. Good guy, just as a person, real amiable and personable. But he's never been in this kind of a position. When you throw him out there with someone like Mr. Frank, how do you feel like? I mean, do you feel like that there's an advantage, or is it youth and energy overcomes experience, or do you feel like they offset each other in the race?
Well, I think that because that's like asking, how do I think about Frank Tapley versus Billy Ray Walls? Frank Tapley obviously has been in a larger budget, right, and everything else in that situation.
Mr. Walls he's
been in there for a while.
He's been in city council. Right. He understands that, and he understands the current issues.
Frank's been in it forever, so you're not quite. I think when you're looking at these, you look at, okay, how much of a grasp do they have on the issues that they're talking about? But for me, for a new person, I think that does that person have a doable vision? And
how much do they have at stake?
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons maybe you've seen the younger candidates than I've ever seen I'll be here 12 years in January.
Yes.
So this is the youngest group of candidates I've ever seen for mayor and as a whole, for mayor and city council.
I think you got 20s, low 30s, mid 30s,
a lot of young people,
right in the 40s.
I feel like there's a group of young people that live here, that want to stay here, that want to see Alexander City succeed. They got a dog in the race. They got a horse in this race, and they want to make it happen. And rather than just sit by and cheer, they're actually getting out there and whipping the pony to go.
Well, Frank's answer to the road thing was prioritize based on condition, which is kind of what the program does. But he did make a statement that I had to type out because it sounded Trump-esque. Make Alex City great again.
That's a good statement. My opinion is Alex City's already great.
Oh, so you're going to throw the Hillary on?
No, I live here for a reason. And for those of you that don't know, I moved here from New Hampshire 12 years ago. I could have, and I'm just saying factually, I could have moved anywhere in the United States, narrowed it to Alabama, could have lived anywhere in Alabama, and
came up with
in Alabama, we looked at numerous cities, villages, towns, and areas all around Alabama. And we kept coming back to Alexander City. Alexander City.
I gave you a hard time about it.
Yeah.
But I have the same feeling you do. I believe that we have issues that have festered and have gotten to the point of no return so far. And it's going to take a strong effort to come back. But I don't think that Alex City itself
is down the tubes.
So
what you see on WSFA.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tend to have to...
I said that.
But, I mean...
Brian Henry going to come after me.
Well, Lisa Rogers is going to shoot you. That's 3 times now. I tell you.
If I disappear tonight, if you find me face down in the Tallapoosa River or Lake Martin, Just remember what he said.
Just saying.
3
3 times.
times.
But, Billy Ray Wall talked about the different thing. I honestly could not hear him over the.
I will say.
And I don't know what it was in that situation.
Maybe his mic level was low, but the sound was in and out.
Yeah.
Both the other night for the Mayors and tonight. And it was difficult at some points to hear.
Well, he has a low speaking voice anyway, so I guess for that situation it made it difficult.
I feel like we missed some of what he said.
There you go.
I do.
Tommy Spraggins did his thing. Already in.
Tremendous resume, lots of experience.
Will be an asset.
A huge asset.
Asset to the financial piece and I believe the economic development piece.
I think he will too.
Okay, so no arguments there. We can move on. Council District 6. This one was a little harder for me because I did not know anyone in that group except for Tony Harris.
And I will say this, and I'll be honest with you. I know Mr. Harris. I've known him for years. But because he's not in my district, he and I have never had this conversation. Mr. Funderburg, known him for a number of years also, known his family. But we have never had this political conversation.
Right.
Because that's not something we would talk about because it's never been an issue.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
And Mr. Cromer, who I know by name, and I know people and he has a good reputation. And people I've asked, who's this Jason Cromer guy? I don't know him very well. And people say, he's a good guy. He's a good. I've never heard anyone besmirch him at all.
Well, in that case, and I will be honest with you, in watching him, you get that feeling that he's a good guy.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, and you know what? If nothing else, that's where. If you wanted to frame him or label him or whatever,
it's a desire to help.
This guy, if you were to vote for him, he'd jump in and at least figure it out and try and do something. He'd be trying to go towards the mark of trying to make Alex City better. I think Funderburg is maybe just a touch more professional. And
I think he has that in his background. He's a business owner. He's
you could just tell that he's. I guess the word around the block a little bit more to kind of know how to navigate.
Right, and then and we'll give credit to Tony Harris. Good guy,
business person,
successful business,
pastor,
many years,
all of that.
Pastors a church, and he says there's some strong leadership skills there to manage a business and to pastor a church, and so we have tremendous respect for him. Also, honestly, to me, that district right there is probably the most up in the air.
Yes.
I think, and what again, your poll.
The poll basically had Cromer in the lead, Funderburg second, and Tony Harris third. But I can't really say that I can go with the poll on this one as much
because we do our own poll.
Yeah,
and that poll is based on observation. It's based on.
Well, I don't know if people outside of the people that are in that district, if I didn't know them. Outside of Tony Harris, I did not know these people. Yeah. So I think that on some of these districts with some of the candidates that may not have had a name, he did it again.
That kicked the camera.
He kicked the camera again. It's fine. You're good. No, you're good. No, but in that situation, you find that individuals that don't have the name or haven't really been out as much,
right?
Those districts are going to be a little tighter, I believe. I believe people just kind of looked at the names and said, okay, I kind of know this person, I've heard of them, whatever, and then kind of went with it. With the people with the names in them, like the Covens, the Meachams, the Ellisons, those races are tight solely because of the fact that people know those people.
Yeah.
And so those numbers might wash out a little differently.
They might.
All right.
We'll know in a week.
We will. Last but not least, you had kind of touched on this about the effect of change.
Yeah.
And what is it in your mind? I know we've talked about finances. I know we've talked about, what does it look like? How do you see us getting out of some of the things that we're in right now,
Well,
so that we can get back on
here's
track?
one of the things.
As an opinion.
One of the things, obviously, and let's talk about the financial, and I've called it the miasma several times. I don't know if you know what a miasma is, but it's like a foul odor coming out of a cave.
Yeah.
That's what a miasma is. So this foul odor that surrounds our city finances has to be cleared up first. Mm-hmm. And I believe it will be. I believe it absolutely has to be. And I believe it will be no matter what. Regardless of the council or the mayor, it's going to be cleared up. They have to. The people will be at City Hall with pitchforks and torches if they don't. I believe this.
Okay.
However that goes down, how that affects the current finance director, I do not know. How that affects the current auditors and accountants that are helping, I do not know.
Right.
How that affects the current council members, because let's see, the election is August, but they don't go into office till when? November, right? So you're looking at September. You're looking at 10, 12 weeks of a lot going on.
Yes.
So that I think will be resolved. In fact, I think by the first of the year, you will see the majority of that will be water under the bridge. As for the city, now there may be individuals. There may be people involved that will have to deal with the ripples and the repercussions of that. But I believe as a primary focus for us and WSFA News, I believe that will be swept behind us.
You know what would have been a good question?
Yes, sir. What?
For this council tonight?
I'll tell you my next one after you interrupt me this time.
Alcohol. What would you do with the alcohol money if it passed?
Oh, I'd spend it.
Duh. But on what?
Whatever I want.
Yeah.
No, but I'll come back to that. The next thing, and this plays into that. Here's what I'm not hearing. We need right now. Here's what we have. We have an image. Mm-hmm. We have a reputation. We have a view outside of this community that is not what we want.
I can go with that.
Our city image needs a handler. It needs an agent. It needs a personal assistant, if you want to call it.
Show me the money.
Someone who can take Alex City's image and transform it and market it. Now, that may be partly the city council's job, or it may be something they need to delegate to an agency, to a marketing group.
But you have the chamber and the EDA that handles those situations.
Well, to
with
some level.
And everything.
To some level, they're not selling. They're selling what we have, but what it appears that we have. Okay, what we have and what it appears we have. And right now, what people think we have is not what we have or appear to have.
Okay, now I'm confused.
So my point is, we need to improve our image.
Yes.
We need someone to market Alexander City's image, not just the business, not just the lake, not just what the chamber and EDA does. I'm saying whether that's something the council does with the mayor, whether that's something that they delegate, we need someone to clean up our image publicly right now.
Okay.
And I didn't see that addressed.
No.
No one has said, here's how we're going to, just because you clear things up, sweep all the dirt out of the middle of the floor.
You still got some problems.
You still have, that didn't change what people think about you out there. Right. People that saw the news, read the paper, saw something on social media in North Carolina or Michigan because me or you or somebody else has friends up there and we put it on Facebook. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. And like I said, I just felt like in this particular setting with as many people, it's like the Republican GOP deal. You had so many people on stage trying to get information that you ended up not getting as much as you thought you would have.
Sure.
With 3 questions.
Yep.
So with the council people, it's imperative that you get out, give them a call, whatever.
You need to go talk to your council.
Yeah, you got to find a way.
Talk to your candidate.
To be able to find your candidate and get in touch with them, Facebook them, whatever you got to do. But I think that there needs to be a little follow-up on the council people to make sure that they are addressing and have an idea of what you as a citizen want for those situations.
Don't just pick somebody because you know them. Pick somebody because you really know them.
Yeah.
Vote for the person you really know.
Qualified.
qualified
in your mind for that? In fact, almost look at it as a job interview. Would you hire them for that
speak
job?
for you at city? Because you realize the person speaking at city council in your district is speaking for you.
Right.
They're speaking for you, or for the majority of people in your district.
Yep.
Which is a fact.
What else you got that you want to go?
I have just about aired all my laundry on here. I've taken threats on my life from my co-host. They offered me pizza. I'm afraid to eat it because I don't know what's in there now. So
go ahead and
I lost that.
Yeah, but we got to get together at some point and talk about this lottery thing.
Yep.
We need to talk about the presidential election.
We need to talk about the upcoming the alcohol sales.
The alcohol
we dig into that a little bit more. And I'd like to have a couple. I'd like to sort of have I'd like to bring two people in. This is just a thought, and have them kind of debate that.
Okay.
Two knowledgeable people who understand the concept of it and how it affects us. Not just I don't like beer or I think whiskey's a sin. I'm saying people who understand. Well, you live in the Bible Belt, so there's a mentality on one side of people. They'll vote against everything alcohol related because for them it's a spiritual issue. Right? And there's another group of people, like we heard the other night, it's purely economic.
Yep.
And then there's a group of people that temper their economic view with a spiritual view, or vice versa.
Right.
So I would like to get two knowledgeable people on both sides of that and have a
discussion.
Have a good directed discussion on that with them.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I had a viewer that actually said that she would like to have some people come on and discuss issues in a debate type format. Yeah. So might be something we do pretty soon.
Something that's well refereed and directed and managed. I agree.
Well, once again, buddy, as usual,
thank you.
August 23rd.
Live coverage.
But if nothing else, if you don't, and to quote Obama in that situation, we've talked about Obama, Trump, and Hillary.
That's right. But tonight we are going to quote Obama.
Don't
Obama.
Boo,
comma, vote.
Don't boo, comma, vote.
There you go.
And come out, hang out with us at City Hall, and let's see if we can kind of get a little bit more information about how our candidates fare out on August the 23rd. We'll start filming about 7:15ish. Be on the lookout for the event that's out there. Until the next time, thank you for tuning in to the Centrist.